Hi students. Today we are going to work on adding using place value. So you guys already do this all the time, but you just might not remember what it means. So adding with place value means that we're just adding numbers in the ones place, tens place, and hundreds place so they're all lined up nicely, just like we talked about in class before. So I would like for you to make sure that you have this paper. It is in your little math workbook. It's called the Standards Practice Workbook. It's the little one, and it is page P15. So please go ahead and find this in your workbook. You can tear it out if you want to, or you don't have to tear it out. So go ahead and pause this video and go ahead and resume it once you have the worksheet. All right, so I am going to assume that you have this paper in front of you. Now, number 1 was already done for us. Number 2, 3, 4, and 5 we are going to do together. Now, it does say estimate and then find the sum. We are just going to estimate. Or no, we're not going to estimate. We're just going to add using the place value. So you can just cross off where it says estimate because we're not going to estimate. Today, we're just going to add the numbers. And like I said, we're only going to do a couple of these problems. So number 2 says 519 plus 347. So I have that written right here. Okay. Now I would like for you to follow along with me as we do this problem. So remember I said we're not going to estimate, we're just going to add. Okay, so if you remember in class, we always start in the ones place. Okay, so we're going to start adding in the ones place. So we have 9 plus 7. I would like for you to take a moment to figure out what 9 plus 7 equals. All right, if you're thinking 16, you are correct. So instead of putting 16 down here, we need to make another 10, okay? So this is the wrong way of doing it. What we have to do is make a 10, put it up there, and then the 6 down here because we had 6 ones left over. So I would like for you to also do this on your paper. Now we have the tens place, okay? So I'm actually going to make my 6 just a little bit smaller so I can really line up my place value. That's better. So in the tens place, we have 1 plus 1 plus 4. Go ahead and take a second to figure out what that equals. And if you need to, you add 2 numbers first. You could do 1 plus 1, which equals 2, and then you can do 2 plus 4. And 2 plus 4 equals 6. So we have another 6. And then we have to go in the hundreds place. Okay, so 5 plus 3, that equals 8. So the answer to this problem is 866. So you should have this problem written down on this paper for number 2. Number 3 says 323 plus 151, which I have right here. Let's do another color. Let's do green. All right, so we always start in the ones place. So we have 3 plus 1 in the ones place. That equals 4. Oh, I like that green color. I'm going to rewrite that just so it's a little bit neater. It is hard to write on a laptop like this. There we go. All right, so we have 3 plus 1 equals 4 in the ones place. The next step is 2 plus 5 in the tens place. So 2 plus 5 equals 7. Notice how we did not have to do any regrouping here. Or not regrouping, we didn't have to do any carrying. Okay, so like 3 plus 4 did not make a new 10. So we didn't have to go over here and put a number like we did in this problem number 1. Okay, so we're not doing any carrying, which actually makes the problem easier and faster. And then in the hundreds place, we have 3 plus 1, which equals 4. All right, next one. Well, so for the answer is 474 for this problem, which you should also have written down in your paper. Problem number 4 says 169 plus 354. And let's use a new color. Let's use red. All right, so we have 9 plus 4. Take a second to find out what 9 plus 4 equals. If you're thinking 13, you are correct. So we have to carry over the 1 in the tens place because 13 has a 10 in it. It has 1 10 and 3 ones. So we have to put the 1 10 in the tens place here, and then the leftover 3 goes in the ones place. Now we have 1 plus 6 plus 5. Now to make this easier, add 2 of the numbers first. Do 1 plus 6, which is 7, and then 7 plus 5. That equals 12. Oh, wow. So we actually have to do another carrying because really, this is 10 plus 60 plus 50, and that would be 120. Okay, so we made a new 100, right? So we have to put the 1 here and the leftover 210 there. So this number is 20 because it's in the tens place. Okay, and now we put our 1 here for the hundreds place, and now we have 1 plus 1 plus 3. Go ahead and write down whatever number you believe 1 plus 1 plus 3 is right here on your worksheet. And if you wrote down 5, you are correct. The answer for that problem is 523. Now we are going to go to number 5. 148 plus 285. I would like for you to solve this problem on your own right now. So go ahead and pause this video and solve the problem, and then go ahead and resume it once you have solved the problem so that way we can do it together. All right, so I'm assuming that you have already paused the video and solved this problem right here that we are going to solve together now. So we have 148 plus 285. The first step should be to always start in the ones place. So the ones place says 8 plus 5, and that equals 13. So I'm going to move my face right over there. So 8 plus 5 equals 13. I made a 10, so I have to put that in the tens place. 13. Now I have 1 plus 4 plus 8. But to make it easier, I'm going to just do 1 plus 4 first, which I know is 5. And then 5 plus 8, which equals 13. And I just made 100. So I have to now carry my 100 here. 3 tens left over. Now in my hundreds place, I have 1 plus 1 plus 2. 1 plus 1 equals 2. And 2 plus another 2 equals 4. So this answer is 433. So that should have been your answer that you got when you worked on that problem on your own. Now, if you did not get that answer, that means you had made a mistake. And so hopefully now you understand what you did wrong. Sorry, there was a bug. Sometimes we forget to count the numbers that we carry up here. So that could be a mistake that you might have made if you got this problem incorrect, but hopefully you got it correct and you understand why now. All right, so we are actually just going to skip the rest of the problems on this worksheet. If you would like to do them for extra practice, that would be amazing, but you do not have to. So let's go back to the worksheet here. We're going to do numbers 13 and 14 together, and then I'm going to have you do a seesaw activity on your own to show what you know. So number 13, I have written down here. It says Mark has 215 baseball cards. Emily has 454 baseball cards. How many baseball cards do Mark and Emily have all together? So the key word that's really, showing out to me is altogether. Now, altogether, oops, I thought that was the highlighter. It's obviously not the highlighter. Let's just do this. Let's just underline it. I would like for you to underline the word altogether on your worksheet. Now, altogether means that we need to add. That is an adding word. It means how many do you have if you put two things or more, even more than two things together, how many do you have? And when we do that, we're adding, okay? So we're not subtracting, we're adding, which makes sense because the rest of this worksheet was about adding. So I have to add together the number of baseball cards that Mark has with the number of baseball cards that Emily has, because we want to find out how many they have all together. So we have to do 215 plus 454. Okay, now on your paper, you have some extra space down here. I would like for you to write that number or that problem vertically, just like I am going to do here. So 215 plus 454. Remember to line up your place value. That means that your ones place is on top of the ones. Okay, so your ones place is nice and lined up, tens place is nicely lined up, and your hundreds place is nicely lined up. So that's the problem we have to solve to get this answer. So I would like for you to please go ahead and solve this problem now, and then resume this video when you have the answer. All right, so I am assuming that you have solved this problem and you have the answer to this problem. So let's see if your answer is correct. 5 plus 4, we're always starting in the ones place. That equals 9. 1 plus 5, that equals 6. Notice how I'm writing my numbers nicely. I'm lining up the digits where they belong. The ones place is all nicely lined up, and so is the tens. Now we move to the hundreds place. 2 plus 4, that equals 6. So the answer is 669. And it's not just 669 because this is a story problem. And Miss Johnson loves when you label your answers in story problems. And what that means is that I'm just going to add a text box to make it easier, but you should just be writing on your page. So you don't obviously have to add a text box. But what I mean by that is by writing the answer and then labeling it. So 669 what? Well, in this case, it's baseball cards, right? The question was how many baseball cards do Mark and Emily have all together? And they have 669 baseball. Oops. So I would like for you to also write that on your paper because that is the correct answer. And that's what I mean by labeling your work. And I'm going to change the color of this. Oops. If I can ever get it, I'll change the color to blue. And I'm also going to circle my answer. I forgot to do that up top. But you know that I love when you circle your answers because that means that I know what your answer is. So if you already circled your answer, then you are already one step ahead of the game. Just going to go back and circle my answers. Great. Okay, let's do the last problem together. Jason has 330 pennies. Richie has 268 pennies. Rachel has 381 pennies. Which two students have more than 700 pennies combined? That is the word that stands out to me here. Combined means that you're putting things together, which means you are adding. So the question here says, which two students have more than 700 pennies combined? So we have three students here, right? We have Jason, who has 330 pennies. We have Richie, who has 268 pennies. And we have Rachel, who has 381 pennies. So I need to think, well, which one or which two kids have 700 pennies or more than 700 pennies combined. So I might have to add some numbers here until I might have to add multiple numbers until I find the answer. So this is kind of like a two-step story problem, which means you have more than one step. So let's just add Jason's pennies with Richie's pennies. So we have 330 plus 268. Now remember, you have your space down here to write this. So I'm going to add a new page, 330. Ooh, that was a sloppy 3. 330 plus, what was the next number? Plus 268, because we're adding Jason and Richie. Okay, I would like for you to solve this problem now. You should have it written on your paper in the space down at the bottom, and I cannot get a straight line. Okay. Now, please go ahead and solve for this answer and then resume the video when you have your answer. All right, so I'm assuming that you have solved for the answer of this problem. Let's see if it is more than 700 because, right, we're trying to figure out which two students have more than 700 pennies. So 0 plus 8 equals 8. 3 plus 6 is 9. And 3 plus 2 is 5. Well, is this number 598? Is that more than 700 or less than 700? It's less than 700, right? So that is not the right one, okay? We added together Jason and Richie. So Jason and Richie is not the combination, not the two students who have more than 700 pennies combined. So maybe we should add Jason and Rachel. So Rachel has 381 pennies. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's add 330 pennies plus 381 pennies. So 330, yikes, this is hard to write like this. 300, and you should be writing this down on your paper as well. So here's the amount of pennies that Jason has, 330 plus Rachel's pennies, which is 381. So let's see if this will be more than 700. All right, so please go ahead and solve for this problem now and pause the video. All right, so I'm assuming that you have solved this problem here. Hopefully this is our last one. Hopefully it's more than 700. So let's see. 0 plus 1, that equals 1. That's the ones place, right? We always start in the ones place. Going over to the tens place, we have 3 plus 8, which equals 11, which I just made 100. So I have to carry that over here, and then I had 110 left over. Now I have 1 plus 3 plus 3. Well, 1 plus 3 equals 4, plus 3 is 7. So is this answer, 711, is that more than 700 or less than 700? It's more, right? It's greater than 700. 711 is more than 700. So that means that Jason and Rachel have the number of pennies that is more than 700. So we have to go back to our problem, and I'm just going to add a text box, but you're just going to write it down. So Jason and Rachel is the answer. And let's go ahead and just write down the number of pennies that they have as well. Jason and Rachel have 711 pennies combined. So you should be writing that as well on the place that has that where you have space for your answer. And I'm going to circle it. So Jason had 330 pennies and Rachel had 381, and those numbers together equal 711. All right, guys. So now, like I said, if you want to do the rest of this worksheet for fun or just for extra practice, if you want to do 6 through 12, you can absolutely do that, but you do not have to do that. And if you do choose to do it, then you could send me a picture of it. I would love to see that. But right now, if you want to do this, go ahead and do that now. But then if you don't want to, or then after you finish this paper, I would like for you to go to the Seesaw assignment called lesson 1.7, and it's just going to have you do, I believe it's 5 problems on there on your own, just to show what you know and to show what you learned from this lesson. Now, if you need to go back and watch some of this video again to understand it a little bit better, then you absolutely can do that, okay? So I will see you all next time. Bye.